We have the opportunity to hear some of our esteemed members of the industry to talk about different issues that could either be opportunities and or prospects for the business. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Mohan, Director and CEO, Qatari Industrial Corporation. And we've agreed that he will talk to us a little bit about the global scenario and the emerging trends facing the industry going forward. So big hand for Dr. Mohan, and we welcome him onto the stage. Thank you.
Respected Hashim Saab, respected Rafiq Saab, Mr. Akil, and esteemed colleagues of the footwear industry, Mr. Selvam. Recently, I went to the West. In fact, we just got launching a brand. So I had a chance to interact with a lot of American as well as European customers. And then 10 days I spent in Far East also. So to look at, after COVID, I went to look at what are the developments which is happening in the Far East, how the China is preparing itself in view of the labor shortages and other things. So I thought I would briefly kind of talk about what is the scenario, global scenario, and also talk a little bit about the developments that is taking place in the manufacturing side in China. Firstly, on the global scenario, as you all know, last year, the global consumption went down by 1.6 billion pairs. And in the US, there's a 750 million pairs is the consumption, lower consumption compared to 2023 consumption. 2024, it's down by 1.6 billion pairs. About 750 million pairs is US. And about 400 million pairs is Europe, all around Europe. And in Asia is about 350 million pairs. So this is what has happened. What has caused this? I used to wonder what has caused this. Why is such a low consumption all of a sudden? Everyone is sitting with stocks. You talk to everybody and they are saying like, look, we are overstocked. And we are kind of, we don't know how the fashion is changing. So we are not taking the risk of ordering. Most of the retailers want to order closer to sales. They cannot work on a pipeline of 6 to 8 weeks. They would like 6 to 8 months, and they would like to kind of shorten the lead time. What's happening? Basically, after the COVID era, dress has become casual. Everyone is casually dressed. We can't see what we read in the school books. An Englishman training with a grey suit and a white umbrella and a black umbrella in England. It's not there. Even in London, the dress has changed, especially the Friday and now it's Thursday also. People come in casuals. Before, it was not allowed to wear shorts to the offices. So how we can reinvent ourselves? There are certain categories which are emerging, which we need to kind of refocus. One is the fashion athletics category. It's a cross-fertilization of fashion and athleisure. Fashion athletics is one category, which is a company like Aldo has been extremely successful in that category. So that is something, there are some new things which are happening in the marketplace. So my message after all this trip in the Europe and coming back, we have to reinvent ourselves, especially leather will have its place of pride. There's no question or no doubt about it. Leather, every man and a woman will have at least 1 or 2 pairs of leather in the closet. You cannot kind of get away from the leather bit. But nevertheless, how we can reinvent ourselves in the leather, how we can kind of change the offerings to the customers at the marketplace. That is something which we need to kind of reinvent ourselves. Okay, when there are many environmental lobbyists, one is something which is a favorite topic of Mr. Shafi. We always keep talking about it. We should be strong enough to tell, don't call it as vegan leather. That word should not come. It is a vegan material, not leather at all, because there are many, such people claim they take the second thing which we need to be very, very conscious of, whenever we talk about leather, we should not talk about livestock population. We are doing a great job to the society by taking care of the byproducts, because the livestock is for the meat industry. It's not for the leather industry. So these are some of the things we need to kind of reposition ourselves and market ourselves better. This is one thing which we need to, maybe a leather mark, something which we spoke about with Mr. Akil the other time. So something we need to do from the leather industry perspective to kind of promote leather in a much better way. This is one of the feelings. The second is what is happening in the Far East. That's something which I want to what's an opportunity for us. Recently, someone sent me, Vietnam is in any case, Vietnam is the number one sports footwear destination. They make, Nike almost has 51% of the Nike shoes are made in Vietnam. And 27% is China, and Indonesia is about 17%. That's a kind of a numbers, which recently it's published in the Nike's balance sheet. The new CEO who was just taken over said that, look, we have got all of our presence in Vietnam and we need to do something about it. So everyone is looking at India. But when I went to the Chinese factories, one is the kind of automation and the kind of productivity improvements which they have done is unbelievable. I was very surprised. In a traditional Chinese factory, the productivity per person per day is about 45 pairs per person per day. In a semi-automated factory, it's about 77 pairs per person per day. In a fully automated factory, it's about 140 pairs per person per day. This is a athletics footwear, this thing. I went to a factory which is completely robots and other. There are two reasons for it, why it is changing like that. The average age of Chinese workers is about 50 years plus. The average age of Vietnamese workers today working in the factory is about 45 years plus. Indonesia is about 40 years plus. In India, we have a phenomenal opportunity. Just because the labor is cheap, we should not we should focus on more on the productivity, how we can do the productivity improvements, what we can offer better. Because what has happened is many of the Chinese factories have put down the prices to keep the factory running. They put down the prices, and that's putting a lot of pressure on us. To summarize, focus on the productivity, re-engineer and rework on our collections, and do customer-focused collections rather than market-forced collections. Gone were those days to say that this is what we are capable of making. Give me the last, give me the soles, give me the dice, and let me try and make the shoe for you. And what is missing in India is the material ecosystem. That is something, if you are there, we will kill the world, sir. Believe me, we will kill the world because we have the aptitude and we have the attitude, which the Chinese lack. I'm not criticizing anything. What they have done is fantastic. But we have the aptitude and the attitude both, and above all the dexterity to compete with those. We need to improve our speed and we need to improve our material ecosystem and look at adjacent segments. Just don't be focused on men's alone. The fashion footwear is something which we need to do, and the children footwear is something which we need to focus on. These two areas, it's ever growing, and we need to, and also look at the domestic market. Because recently I mentored a research report on domestic market. India consumes about 1.7, 1.8 billion pairs per person per annum, about 2.6 billion pairs, sir. And our research and other things show that we will consume close to 4.8 pairs per person per annum. That means what? We will be close to, with the population growth of 1.4 going up to 1.47, and we will be close to about 5 billion pairs, which is 25% of the global market share. Today, world consumes about 22 billion pairs. So we have a phenomenal opportunity, really phenomenal opportunity. I would encourage, look at putting something for domestic also, because the knowledge in this room is unbelievable. I have seen the domestic market. I have seen the products which are being made in the domestic market. Definitely, the knowledge which is there in this room, if it could be translated into good brands, look at brands in the domestic market, because that is where the market is. Brands, Abhishek is there, he'll talk about it. I don't want to steal your thunder, Abhishek. And brands is something, and also the raw material ecosystem. These two, if you can fix it, I think we have a phenomenal opportunity. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. Thanks a ton. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Appreciate your inputs and the headline news about what we in the industry need to do to look forward and take things forward. In my opinion, I think all of us who come from the traditional footwear manufacturing side, making the black and brown shoes as they call them, need to look at newer technologies, better performing soles, insoles, leathers which are far more eco-friendly and far more resilient. You look at what Kolhan did when they were acquired by an athletic brand. They created a new range of shoes using the technology from Nike. They created these very lightweight soles. And Kolhan's business in the United States, despite being a black and brown shoe brand, went up several times. The same thing happened with Rockport, but of course, as time says, Rockport was sold later by Reebok and Kolhan also was sold by Nike. But during that period of investment, there was a tremendous growth opportunity that these brands enjoyed by amalgamating technologies from the athleisure products into the traditional black and brown shoes. We are really short of time, so I'm going to now invite Mr. P.S. Suresh, Head of Footwear Operations for Tata International, to please come up. And we want him to talk about, he himself wanted to talk about his first year in the footwear industry. So we're very keen to hear his insights. He's going to be very objective because he's not carrying any baggage like most of us do. So we'll hear a lot of innovative thoughts from him. Welcome, Mr. Suresh.
Thank you, Yavarji, for the warm invitation. Respected Hashim ji, Mr. Rafiq Ahmed, Wahab Saab, Mr. Akil. Personally, I think, Mr. Mohan mentioned, touched upon it. In our philosophy, they always say, look inward. As you grow older, they say, forget about the pleasures of the external world, start looking inward. I think as a country, we also need to start looking inward, because I think there is a huge opportunity, as he mentioned, in the domestic market. If you really look at the numbers, they're quite mind-boggling. A company like Metro or a company like Relaxo or Campus, their market capitalization equals that of Pouchen or Yuyun or the big Taiwanese majors, although their turnover is probably 10 or 20% of these Taiwanese companies. So I think we all need to adapt and change with the times. I think what we all need to do is, of course, we have to keep the focus on trying to become more and more efficient. We have to look at automation at the right places. We have to keep looking at worker productivity. We have to keep looking at our costs. But I think we have to change our mindset a little bit. I've been in multiple businesses, all export-oriented. And I spent most of my career thinking that, it's good to do 95% export, and if I have the time and capacity, I'll do 5% for the domestic market. I think we all need to change. It's a good idea to really look at producing and creating product for the domestic market. Maybe you can start off thinking that you will do 50% for the domestic market, maybe even 70% for the domestic market. You, of course, need to be there for the export market, because that's where you get all the technology, you get the knowledge of the big brands which really control the business. But the domestic market is where the action is. I think if you look at brands like Comet, or you look at brands like Rare Rabbit, which are actually creating a lot of buzz in the domestic market, they look at agility. I think for a long time, we've been focused on cost, quality. Of course, it's very important. I'm not for a moment saying that it's not important. But I think we need to see how we can become really agile, how we can cut short our product to manufacturing, concept to store time to 2 months, 3 months. These brands are able to do it. They sketch a product and they have it in store in 60 days. They do the manufacturing. They are really strong in their sourcing, and they help you with their sourcing. And they show that it is possible to put the product into the market in 45 to 60 days. So we need to really look at how we can really become agile. Brands want, how you can quickly deliver. How well can you deliver multiple SKUs? How well can you keep up volume flexibility and variety flexibility, So we need to think of creating libraries of products, libraries of soles, libraries of upper materials, where you can offer a bouquet. If a company comes to you and says, this is the month of August and I have a Diwali launch, what can you do for me? We need to be able to provide options to them. We have this whole little bit of a bias towards export-oriented kind of growth. That has obviously been the bulwark of all the initiatives from the government, and it has always helped us, kept us in good stead. But I think it's time for us to see how we can create manufacturing clusters which are focused on serving the domestic customer. So I think a workable model for the future would be something like a 70-30, 70 for domestic, 30 for export, or a 50-50, where you manufacture 50% for the export market, service all the big brands, but don't ignore the market where there is maximum action,
Respected father, Janab Hashim Sahib, Makka Rafiq Ahmed Sahib, Akhil Bhai, friends from the industry. Friends, from our side, what we should be doing. Last 3-4 months since I have taken over, I have always been advocating that we should be focusing and increasing our operational efficiencies. That is the key thing I have been talking, friends, and that we have to, what is good for us, like our good for us, like say 70 to 80% on-time performance is not at all good for our customers and what our competition is delivering. Our competition is delivering 95% to 100% on time. Every meeting we go, this is the major complaint. And so what is good for us is not good for the world and the current scenario of the fast delivery. Similarly, the efficiency that we work 60, 70, not at all nowhere connected with 95%, 90%, and the quality. Every time we are always looking at a compromised quality, whereas our competition has never compromised. So this is, I would say that whatever we are having, we are always in the survival mode, friends. We have to go into if we increase our operational efficiencies on targeting all these things, then definitely our top line and bottom line is definitely going to be better, and we can be very much aggressive in the thing there. So with this few things that I have in mind, our organization is like unfortunately like an elephant. We take a lot of time to move around, whereas our competition are looking like a cheetah and just flexible and agile. Just to give you a thing that even my organization is nowhere different. What was good before COVID, we had like say 50,000 pieces in 10 styles. The same after COVID is 25 styles and just the same 50,000. And we are bogged down. We are as a top 3 supplier for the brand, we are at the bottom 3 suppliers like that, because we definitely within 1 or 2 years will overcome thing. But this is what the organization is not flexible and agile, that we really need to be.
I have the greatest pleasure now to invite Shafiq Bhai. He's just Shafiq Bhai is a true artisan. He creates beautiful leathers, lovely articles. So a little bit of insight from Shafiq Bhai about the recently concluded Linea Pele, the forecasting trends. And I know, but you still have your antennas working. So we'd love to hear from Shafiq Bhai about what's emerging on the leather front. Thank you.
The low impact processing is taking over in many places. When I say low impact processing, is the sustainability. Sustainability is taking over in many places now. Leather is moving very in its modern way to what we were expecting. It is moving very well. I think it's going to take a good position, a niche product position very soon. Probably not immediately next year, maybe year after, because a lot of transparency in EUDR is coming, HDSC, the chemical controls. Most of the hazardous things are cleaned up in the leather processing, and bio-based. A lot of bio-based leathers are coming out, which is very sustainable, cleaner technologies. I think people who are focusing on this, moving in this direction, and make their product in these leathers, proper labeling. Even now, US is coming up, labeling for upholstery. Car upholstery has to be labeled if it's leather or non-leather, because the longevity and the LCA of the non-leather is very bad. People have understood that. Some of the states in America is asking now if the leather upholstery has to be mentioned, if it's non-leather, because people have seen it, how bad non-leather has worn out, and the longevity. And the non-leather biggest crisis which is going to hit non-leather very soon is the microplastics. The world is contaminated with microplastics. The seas, as you know, plastic is flooded in the seas, and now is hitting the people's health now. The new health reports have come that many of the people in urban cities have the bodies with microplastics loaded in the bodies. So the health hazard is going to happen in many of these plastics, because there's a contamination everywhere, anywhere you touch. So that's one negative side in general non-leather, good for maybe for leather. So it's a lot of good things are happening slowly, and I think leather will have its own position sooner or later as a cleaner and more longevity and nicer product.
If you're ever depressed, call Shafiq Bhai to speak. He now makes me feel so happy and excited about the future of the leather industry. Thank you, Shafiq Bhai. I'm looking forward to all these new restrictions being put on non-leather material. And I would also urge the industry, the IFLMIA, to take up this use of the word vegan leather. I mean, it's completely unacceptable, and we should take it up as strongly as possible. And I think we should work hard to educate the world about the longevity and the sustainability of leather. You know, many people don't understand that, especially the new kids, you know, the millennials and even the younger ones. They don't understand. They only associate leather with cruelty to animals and damaging to the environment, which is so untrue today. Thank you, Shafiq Bhai. Always a pleasure to hear you. May I now invite the President to sum up the first session before we hand the floor over to Irshad for session 2. Thank you.
You know, when I started the career in 2014, probably 2014, and before that, I wanted to say that India is now celebrating the milestone of 10 years of Make in India. As you know that yesterday, our Honorable Prime Minister and our Commerce Ministers and everywhere is talking about a story about Make in India. So when you hear about Make in India, I think, Rafiq Bhai, whether you remember, during your chairmanship, and I was the regional chairman, and Mr. Mohan was the convener at that time. So you put a task to the people to go to different countries. And I was given a task to go to US, and I think Mr. Mohan was there in Las Vegas, and Shafiq went to China, Vietnam. And I was just wondering, so 10 years have gone under his visionary leadership, and India has grown much at a larger stake. And ministry is also continuously asking what progress has been done. Yeah, well, I'll speak about more of a crisis management that we go through in our business, which is like the family business, which has been going. We talked about corporate industry, we talk about joint ventures, we talk about non-leather footwear. But as my own company, how situations have gone, and in my own life, if I remember, I had 3 setbacks. And one setback was also there where my customer was completely pulled out. And I had 2 good friends, Mr. Jamil and Mr. Shafiq at that time. And there was a customer, I don't want to mention. So they filled up the orders with me. And then second time, also this happened during one of the UK customer left and gone, and we were left with 80% of our capacity sitting idle. So we didn't know what to do. And why I'm saying all this is there is an opportunity everywhere. And the third crisis came to me was during the COVID time. And COVID time, Mr. Abhishek, you would believe me, I was only making like 100% formal, nothing, black and just brown shoes, only black. And you know what happened in America, and then suddenly they said, all the orders were cancelled, and Mr. Mohan mentioned that all athletic footwear, which is the trend now and also during the COVID time. So that time also 80% of my business did. And then we changed everything into 5 divisions. Long time back, uppers, we are doing the business. So I said, upper business I don't do. I only wanted to do what Hashim Bhai and Rafiq Bhai is doing, men's footwear, and that also black, and compete with these 2 companies and, you know, follow their footsteps. But then finally it happens that today, you know, the COVID completely changed the mindset of the business. And now I have the upper business gone back, and also we have leather business, also we have sports footwear business, and also we have started domestic business. Every part, we are not a big company, but small share we have. Just wanted to ensure that we don't end up in a crisis again. But even if it's a crisis, I'm very confident that I'll come out. So when we have faced COVID, we can face anything else. You know, the very important thing I wanted to mention is about how do you bounce back in the business. I was reading a book. I just normally picked up some books I picked up in the Boston airport, HBR publication. It says, The Mental Toughness. What is mental toughness? So the mental toughness is teaching you about every setback has a stronger and better leader. The book was filled with a lesson from Olympic athletes. So the business shows that you have to work like a sports person, that you have to be fit and you have to make sure that you don't feel weaker in your business. That's the direction the book is giving. I think you all should read that. And then the other one is that the long-term aspiration. And another important point in this reading was to surround yourself with the people who push you to be your best, like a coach. I know why Farida is successful today, because he is the man who is pushing, his children. He is a leader who says, and we need a leader somewhere in every company to push the company to the higher level. I still remember the ECHO chairman said at one time, if chairman sleeps, everybody sleeps. He says, if chairman sleeps, everybody sleeps. Another word he used was, a chairman should go and see the dustbin first. That's where your profit is there. And so these are the lessons that what I thought I wanted to share with you. And also if you see today, for example, Mukesh Ambani just mentioned in one of the item, he said, in every crisis there's an opportunity. So when you have a crisis, you have another opportunity. I think we have seen an opportunity. Before that, I think last year I mentioned about a Chinese. I want to give an example about Chinese. So I think who were at the last AGM I mentioned. In the light of story about Chinese businessman who took an auto rickshaw in India for a ride. So he was going around and he saw the bus. Why this bus is going so slow? And then he went and said, he saw the train. He said, why the train is moving so slow? In China, everything is fast, everything is good. And then he saw the traffic, and every time he was criticizing. So auto driver is an illiterate guy, and he said, okay, fine, this guy is talking very high about China. So he got down from a place, and then he said, how much should I pay you? He said, pay me 10,000. And he said, what 10,000? I don't pay you 10,000. He said, this meter is from China, and it runs more faster than our cars. So the moral of the story is, so this is Chinese made. So look at the concept of our people and how we think, and that's how we should beat China. And thank you very much, and thank you for Jai Hind.
All my friends here, the guests today, I'm not going to speak about the business. I only say the power of Akhil, how he can attract people. When I stand and see here, I see all the associations, all the departments, all the category of leather, people are here. That, to attract them to come to a meeting, he is the only one who is possible for me. And he will make every event very, very attractive, very professional. And as he does his business, he also runs the organization in a very, very calculated, very presentable manner. I congratulate you, Rafiq. I'm not going to talk about business. The youngsters, they know much better than us. They have told you how the future looks like. They have to see the future rather than we see the future. What is needed is the youngsters has to see the future. We are not. If I'm going to see the future, it is not good. They have to see the future. That is what the way it looks like. I used to come and say, what is your children are doing there? As I say, my 4 sons are there. They run the factories. They run them and they control the factories and everything. What is your job? I said, I control the children, that's all. That's my job. That is what I said. One last thing I will say and go back. Akhil Bhai said he is a senior citizen and he got into queue and then they were looking at him. There was one man who he's an old man. Next to him was a very young girl, like 25, blonde, holding him. I said, who is this? And he said, she's my wife. And then the guy said, did you lie to him? What is your, did you lie? How old is you? He said, I am 65, 70. Did you lie your How did you get married to this young girl? He said, I lied my age. Oh, then you would have said 45. No, I told her I'm 90. That is why she got married to me. That is how it is. That is the reality, Akhil. Thank you.
Thank you, Babuji. That was a wonderful joke. I need to know the number of this girl. I'm 92. And Akhil Bhai, I was looking forward to your Chinese in the taxi driver joke. That would have been a lot of fun because especially for our visitors from Mumbai and Jinnah Rafiq Bhai, they would have enjoyed that joke. Anyway, the first session is now concluded. We thank all the speakers who spent a lot of time to explain to us what they see going forward. But now ours was just a trailer. Now the main show starts, and I'm delighted to invite Irshad Mecca to take over session 2 from now, please. Thank you.